Welcome to Live Vedanta, a podcast on simple living and high thinking. In each episode, we're exploring insights on courageous caregiving through the guidance of Sri Vivek Gupta, the resident guide of Chinmaya Mission, Cleveland, Niagara. In today's episode, we're diving into two powerful principles, Satya and Svadhyaya. Satya, or non-compromising, invites us to stay rooted in our highest values, choosing integrity over convenience and curiosity over judgment. Svadhyaya, or to understand, reminds us that the more deeply we know ourselves, the more compassionately we can connect to others. Let's tune in to learn more.
Hari Om, and greetings from Atlanta, from Hotlanta. In the Bhagavad Gita, specifically in chapter 6, Shri Krishna is teaching Prince Arjuna about the importance, about the necessity of dhyana or contemplation, and then goes on to share a comprehensive program on contemplation. This is the carrot, this is the stick, this is the process, this is the troubleshooting. And after he shares all of this, Prince Arjuna says to him, I can't do it. What will happen to me if I don't learn how to contemplate, and so I don't become free like you? How many of you think of this sometimes? That you're trying, and what if you don't get enlightened in this lifetime? So Shri Krishna shares, for the person who's midway on their journey, they will be reborn into a home, into a context that is facilitated or infused with Shri and Shuchi, which in English means comfort and purity. One will be reborn into a context where there's comfort outside and purity inside. For those who are advanced in their journey, they will be reborn into a home, into a family, into a context that is infused with yogi and dhi, which means challenges and purpose. They will be born in a context with parents, with cousins, etc., that challenge them to be better, to be the best, as well as dhi, which means purpose. That the people around them have a purpose for the day, a purpose for their life, a purpose for their lifetimes. And the reason Sri Krishna is sharing these very specific details, is that there's no wasted effort. Money will come and go, time will come and go, but the effort you put into being a seeker that becomes an intermediate seeker to become an advanced seeker, that effort is cumulative. That comes but doesn't go. So now as you analyze your day or the past week, what has been the most efficient investment? Whatever you've invested to bring out the best in you. We have two cultures that are merging right now, seeking culture, parenting culture. I'm going to go with the flow of sharing what is being taught in parenting culture because this will be a good review for those in seeking culture. We are exploring Sri Rama's weapon, that is the arrows that are values for us. And I know all of our exploring adults, evolving adults, you remember all of this, yes? I invested 32 weeks of my life teaching you this. And if you don't remember, then that means you don't value my life. The first arrow is Shama. Shama means quietude. Whenever we are quiet, every experience is better. How many of you agree? When you're quiet, doesn't food taste better? When people around you are quiet, aren't movies better? Even now, 2 weeks from now, I'll be coming back to Atlanta. Does anyone know why I'll be coming back to Atlanta in 2 weeks? Because Pearl Jam is playing here. Now, I'm going to be in a arena with 25,000 other people, and it's going to be so loud, but at least for me, I will be so present that inside I will be quiet. And so even the loud decibels are better. What a great arrow that is Shama. The next arrow is Yama, the don'ts. And so far we have flowed well through the don'ts of ahimsa, which is non-harming. Point to me, who do you harm the most? Yourself. When you are a I can't person rather than I can person, you are harming yourself. I observe this in our Chinmaya Mission centers. Some Chinmaya Mission centers are a you can't center, and some centers are a you can center. Number 2, aparigraha, which is non-possessing. How many of you feel that you own too much stuff? By a show of hands. I've been to many of your homes. How come you don't have your hands up? Our rigor is very different, correct? Number 3 is non-indulging. That is brahmacharya or non-indulging. Elaborating on this a little bit. When you are facilitating your context, what an abstract statement, facilitating your context, choose discomfort. Choose discomfort when it comes to food and your bed and your seat. Because when you choose discomfort, you acknowledge that this is just the means, but this is not the ends. I've started to train for running from the mind. So today when I went for a jog, instead of wearing shorts, I wore hiking pants. Instead of wearing a t-shirt, I wore a long sleeve shirt. And everyone thought, who's this crazy person that's running around? But I'm not just training my body. I'm trying to train myself just not to be annoyed by heat and sweat. So whenever, wherever you can, choose discomfort. I didn't say disease, food that's gonna make you sick. I'm referring to externalities like clothes. And then the next yama is asteya, which is non-irrigating. Non-irrigating, so like non-irrigating. Don't water your grass. Non-irrigating. And the way to really live this is to do your part. When you do your part, you really feel the whole then. And this is a great practice for organizations, for families, where everyone should feel that they're a part of the whole and they should do their part. How many of you watched the show The Bear? My show of hands. Yes, all of our Chicago folk. You love it. The references to Chicago. And there's such a system of people who wash dishes, people who, I think they're called sous chefs, and people who manage the tables. Like everyone has to do their part. That is asteya, or non-irrigating. Now I'm getting into the final arrow within the yamas, okay? So shama, yama. Yama is really a group of 5 arrows. The 5th part of this is Satya. Overall, for those who have gone through Vibhishana Gita, this is the 25th value, which is Satya. In English, this can be defined as non-compromising. Non-compromising. When it comes to relationships, with your sister, with your cousin, with your uncle, whoever it is, we're always told to compromise. Yes. How many of you heard this statement, you should compromise in a relationship, over the past 2 weeks? You're the one who said it, right? Compromise. But there is a difference between compromising and sacrificing. Compromise is when you let go of the higher for the lower. When it comes to ideals, you let go of that more demanding ideal for the lower bar ideal. Sacrificing is where you let go of the lower ideal because you're holding on to the higher ideal. In most of the books that you study, Satya will be defined as an ideal. And I think most of us already know that. But what we need training in is to not compromise on that ideal. And some ways where this can be practiced for us, when it comes to an ideal that you have, and I'm going to pause here, please share with me in the chat an ideal you feel you strive to live by. What is an ideal you feel you strive to live by? For you not to live in an automatic way. Authenticity, truth, kindness, discipline, consistency, prioritization. Solid. I know everyone here has an ideal or ideals to build an infrastructure that will hold up this ideal. So now think, if your ideal is balance, what kind of infrastructure should you put around you to have a good sleep schedule? Have a good schedule in terms of looking after your physical health. When people are speaking to you, to listen more than you speak. See how there's an infrastructure that helps you to follow that ideal. For me, I am fortunate that I literally move from satsang to satsang to satsang. I don't have time to be in dusanga. That's the infrastructure that I'm trying to use for this ideal. Now, my final sentiment for now, in terms of how do we practice satya or non-compromising, I was interacting with a seeker and she was giving me a quote from Ted Lasso. How many of you have seen Ted Lasso, the show? I believe there's a 4th season coming out. And she loves this show, and she and I talk about the shows we watch all the time. So she was telling me a quote where I think Ted Lasso is saying to one of the players, be curious. And the point is, our default is to judge someone, but instead of judging someone, be curious about them. Imagine we can train ourselves, those who are older than us, younger than us, to be curious instead of judgmental. What will happen then is we will be more steady, more integrated. We will be more inclusive. These are all things we want to live by, correct? So catch yourself when you interact with someone. What is your default? What do you shift to? Is it being curious to get to know them better, to really get to know them? Or is it judgment? That's the difference between sacrifice and compromise. Okay. Here is the 3rd arrow. What was the first arrow? Shama. Quietude. I'd shared everything in life is better when you're quiet. Second arrow, yama. There are 5 values built into this. The one that I just emphasized is non-compromising. You should sacrifice rather than compromise. How? Have an infrastructure around that ideal. How? Be curious. It helps in so many ways. Now, the 3rd arrow is the niyamas. Tell me in English what niyama means. What does niyama mean? If there is a don't, then there has to be a corresponding do. These are the 5 do's. the 5 dudes. These are the 5 do's. We're starting with value 26, which is so awesome that in this small portion of the Ramayana that there's that many values, and it is Svadhyaya. Svadhyaya. In English, it is to understand. Or I can share it in a different way. It is do understand. Just like all of the previous arrows were non, correct? Non-harming, non-possessing. These are all do understand or to understand. Now, how to practice this? Starting at a higher level, the more you understand yourself, the more you will understand others. How many of you feel, by a show of hands, it is almost your profession in life or your primary responsibility to be a communicator? How many of you feel like so much of what you have to do every day is to communicate? A lot. That means you have to speak a lot, correct? As a, let's say, a public speaker, what is one of the best ways to be a good public speaker? It is to get to know yourself about what you're good at and not good at. And the more you get to know yourself, the more you get to know the people you're speaking at, and then there's a reconciliation. As an example, sometimes when I have to speak in corporate settings, they force me to come up with a slideshow. Now, all of you know I can barely spell PowerPoint, leave alone create a PowerPoint. So someone else has created for me. They're going through the screens and I'm kind of looking at it. I have to talk about this now, but I don't want to talk about this. I want to talk about what I'm good at and what I know to talk about. So like I've told our team, our corporate team, just tell them that I don't know how to use PowerPoint. Let me just talk. Let me just engage people. And my point that I'm sharing here is the micro and the macro are not different. Pujya Chinmaya always writes that if you know water, that means you know all of the oceans. Svadhyaya, as you understand yourself, you will be 10 times, 100 times better at understanding people. And the hardest part of life is people. Parents, siblings, co-workers, co-students. In Enhanced Seva training, I'm meeting with many of you who are in Enhanced Seva training. And when we have our one-with-ones, the question that comes to me the most is, how do I deal with my co-teacher? They're sharing one thing, I'm sharing another thing. So the relationship between the micro and the macro. Here's another suggestion, advice on how to practice Swadhyaya. It is to be alone more. Be alone. When you're with lots and lots and lots of people, we tend to deflect or be extrovert. But when you're by yourself, do you not find that you're more reflective when you're by yourself? There's no one to look at. There's no one to output to. Be by yourself more. Some of you who have studied Sadhana Panchakam with me, I'd given you the acronym EAT. What does EAT stand for? Eat alone time. You got it. At least one meal a day, you should eat alone. And best is you should eat alone where everybody is watching you. Like for those of you who are at college, those of you who are working, you find a table in the corner and sit by yourself. And the whole time you're eating, you're going to be thinking people are judging you, but that should be your training. Why do you go to that default that they're judging you? Focus on your peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Focus on your Nutella sandwich. Be comfortable being alone. It helps you to be more inward looking. One more tip on how to understand. And you can do this by yourself. You can do this with people. So many of us who engage in athletics together, as soon as athletics is done, tell me, what do? We all gather. Everyone sits down, then they close their eyes, then they feel their heartbeat, then they lower their body temperature, right? We do all of that. And then I ask, exactly, what did you learn about you by playing soccer? What did you learn about life by playing frisbee? And people share great things. It's not that I learned about the curvature of a soccer ball. I learned you should throw it like this instead of this. Nobody shares that. They share great reflections from that 1 hour game. So debrief more. After watching a movie, debrief. After meaningful mornings, debrief. After organizing a retreat, debrief. After getting into an argument, debrief. That debrief is a way to encourage understanding. The next time something happens, you'll be more oriented towards understanding. Good? More of the niyamas or the do's are coming.
If you enjoyed what you heard or want to learn more, share this episode with a friend or find us online at facebook.com/cmniagara. For those on the journey of self-development, Chinmaya Mission Niagara provides a community forum for seekers to listen, reflect, and contemplate. This podcast is produced by the Young Adults of Chinmaya Mission, an international nonprofit working to transform individuals through the knowledge of Vedanta. Until next time, inspire, love, be.